Okay, so let's continue with CSS and start working with fonts here. Now, we have our H1, H2, H3, so we're just following off from the last video. So let's go in and change the fonts of one of these. Well, the actual fonts and the size. So we'll start with font size here. So what happens is a lot of times what you'll do, you'll try to do this. You'll say H1 and then try to code it here again. You don't need to do that. That will cause some issues later on because what happens, y'all end up overwriting your code, and that's not what you necessarily want to do. We already have an H1 up here, so we need to just code it in between here. So remember, it goes in between the opening and closing curly bracket. So if I just press enter, I can go in, it's still in between the opening and closing curly bracket, and I can just say font dash size and then put a colon. And I can do pixels, and that's what we'll do in this video. So if I say, 50 pixels, right? And I hit save, this H1 should now be 50 pixels, which it is. And you can do the same here. If I say font size and I do, let's say 75 pixels and hit save and go live again, you can see that it's now 75 pixels. So font size is very simple. You can go down or up however you want to do it. But let's say we want to actually change a font. And what we want to do is we want to embed a font. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to type in Google Fonts. And let's go to Google Fonts here. And we're going to embed a font. So I'm sort of liking this one. So if I click on it, all I did was just click here, click on the font that I wanted to select. And what I want to do is embed it. And this is a two-step process when you're embedding a font, and that's one of the parameters for your project is I tell you to embed a font through possibly Google Fonts. Some of you use that font, and that's totally fine. And the process is sort of similar, but I'm just going to use Google Fonts here as the example. So let's say I want this variation of the font. So if I click select this style, dismiss that, you can see that it has two separate parts here. Alright, so the first part, you'll see this link rel, and this is to embed the actual Google API so that the font pulls up. Without this, it won't work. So what I'm going to do is I have to copy all of it. So let me go in and highlight it, and if I hit Command C to copy, I'll go back to my code, and let's go to the index. And this has to go inside of the head of the document. So right after my link rel for the link for the style sheet, I need to just hit Command V to paste it. And don't worry, it probably spread out a little bit like that. And I'm good to go. I have embedded the Google API. All I did was copy it and paste it in there, but I'm not actually done. There's a second part. So what I need to do is, if I go to the CSS rules, and if I copy this font family, and font family is how you change the font here. If I copy that and go back, this goes on my style sheet on the page or the tag that I want the font to change. So if I hit enter on this H1, I hit paste here, and I'll do it for this one too, and hit paste, and we hit save. Let's live preview and see if this pulls up, and it does, and my font has been successfully embedded here. So that's how you can go in and manipulate your fonts and change those up as you see fit.